All right, before I play these two clips to see if you see what I see, credit to Gypsy Tales and credit to Vital MX for these two clips. If you haven't watched the podcast that it's taken from, or you haven't watched the clip of Sexton talking about his experience at Anaheim 1, I'll link them in the description so you can go watch them. But I just want to see if you pick up what I'm picking up between these two clips.
How do you compare, like when you see a Lance Armstrong versus like a Chase or a Kenny, like are those boys in the same ballpark?
Lance ruined me for everyone else.
That makes sense.
Ruined me. Ruined, like, because I'm like, what do you mean you're not, because he would do anything. It was like, if he had a broken, or something was wrong with his bike, it was like, I'll beat those guys on a tricycle. He had that, like, no one could beat, like, if I want to win, I'm going to win. Like, I don't care. And that's one thing with I know it's different in motocross, but with Chad, with Kenny, with all of them, they're f***ing bikes. The way they set them up, it's like always the bike. I'm like, just fucking believe you can win. I don't care. Like, just get it to where you want and fucking quit fucking with it. Like, I get so, Chase is probably going to rail me for this.
Yeah, just try and tinker, get a little bit better, but we're not making big swings anymore, at least. That's like, we got that out of the way. Big swings are gone. So now we just kind of fine tune and make baby steps. We're not taking forks off, shock off every session. We're just kind of, I only did, I think, 3 clicks the whole weekend. Good day overall, and I felt really calm, which was nice. To be honest, it's like almost like a switch happened in my brain. Like, I became like, I don't even know how to explain it. I
realized who you are.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah, it's pretty deep.
So if you don't know who that first guy is, that is Peter Park. That is Chase's trainer. Peter also trains Levi Kitchen, Tom Vial. He has trained Roxon in the past. Roxon's kind of on his own after what he learned from Peter. Chad Reed was his first ever motocross rider that he ever trained. He didn't know anything about the sport until Reed came in. It's actually a very interesting podcast. I've listened to it multiple times just because of the amount of crazy information that's in there, just about kind of training in general. But that specific part about Lance Armstrong and about all of these guys, seems like every single rider complaining about their bike constantly. Those two things, and then what Chase said after Anaheim 1, I was like, those go together. It's no secret that Chase complained about the KTM a lot last year, and that I think he just kind of complains about his bike a lot in general. It seems like he seems to have had problems with his bikes in the past. He's not the first one, obviously. I remember this one clip of Alden Baker getting mad at Dungey because Dungey was just sitting there complaining about his bike, and Alden's like, dude, you got to figure out something that you can just bring to the races that you know is going to be decent. It might not be the absolute best, but you know it's something decent that you can work off of, because this isn't going to work. Just complaining about the bike is not going to work. And I think that's what Villapoto did. I don't think Villapoto changed his bike very much. When it came from track to track, I think he brought a pretty similar setup, if I recall, to everything. So he got it right. Like I said, Chase last year, it was no secret that he didn't like his bike. And he said in that interview that last year they were like taking forks off, shocks off. They were doing huge changes to the bike every single weekend. And then at Anaheim, this weekend, he only changed the clickers a little bit. I think that is such a huge thing. I don't know if it's so much a mentality change as far as just those guys worked hard this offseason to get a setup that I think we'll see if he continues to not complain about his bike. But if he literally says every single weekend, like, yeah, we didn't do a whole lot to the bike this weekend, we just changed a couple clickers, I think it's just showing that maybe what Peter wants is getting through to Chase. Or it's just a team thing, or it's just they worked hard and got a sick setup. Either way, I thought it was interesting that Peter talked about how Lance wanted to win so bad that he's like, I don't care if I'm on a freaking tricycle, I'm going to kill these guys. And now Chase is like, hey, we didn't have to do too much to the bike today. I still don't see that killer mentality, though. Maybe. Because Chase did say something that was pretty interesting. He said it was like a switch flipped in his brain. And then he said something about it being pretty deep. So in that podcast with Peter Park on Gypsy Tales, he talks a lot about the mentality of not just champions, but like the greatest athletes in their respective sport. Talks a lot about Lance. Talks a lot about Kobe. Like he said, Lance ruined him. He was Lance's strength and condition coach. He wasn't an on-the-bike trainer. He said he didn't know anything about the drugs at the time, but I think everybody probably knew because everybody did it. It wasn't just Lance. But he said Lance's mentality, it was like, I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to kill everybody. Nobody's going to beat me. And he will do anything in his power to make that possible. Is like, yeah, that ruined me for every other athlete I've ever trained. And he says we haven't seen that in our sport yet. Jace from Gypsy Tales, the host, he pushed back. He's like, I think we did see that with Carmichael. And I would agree. I think Carmichael was so gnarly, and he was willing to do anything to beat everybody. Peter was like, yeah, he was a little bit before I got into the sport, so I didn't really get the opportunity to see him. So I'll give him that. But since Carmichael, he might be right. I don't know if there's anybody that's been as gnarly as Carmichael. But in the podcast, he talks a lot about like meditation and all this other stuff about for mentality. And that's where he's saying, he's like, I don't think that we're at that point yet in this sport to see somebody that has that absolute killer mentality, somebody like Lance, somebody like Kobe, those kind of guys. But Chase, in that interview, said that he kind of locked himself away in Florida with Peter and just put in the work. And when he said that the mentality switch is deep, I just wonder if Peter finally got through to him. Maybe they're doing some meditation stuff. Maybe they're doing a lot of different things for the mental side of it. Because Chase, I think we can all agree, has not been the mentally strongest dude out there. And that's maybe why, I don't want to say his championships have been gifted, but they've kind of been gifted. His Supercross championship might not have won. Probably wouldn't have won if Eli didn't tear his Achilles. Outdoors last year might not have won if Jett didn't wad himself. He seemed to be as fast, at least, as Jett when Jett did his perfect season, but there was something that he mentally couldn't handle to actually pass him. Just didn't seem like he was mentally where he needed to be. And that little comment makes me wonder if something did change this offseason with his mentality. Maybe he's being a bit more selfish. I don't know. Does he have a girlfriend right now? That might have a lot to do with it. I think that all these guys they're just like, they're good dudes. They really are. Like every single one. To have that killer mindset, you do have to be a very selfish person. And I don't know if any of these guys are willing to be that kind of guy. That's why I said, does Sexton have a girlfriend? Because if he doesn't, then maybe that would make sense that he's being super selfish in his life to get that mentality. All of this is to just say that maybe Chase is different this year. I don't know if he actually is. I just saw one little comment that he made, and I've listened to that podcast so much that I was just like, maybe Peter got through to him. And if he did, it might be a dangerous Chase. But we're only one round into the season, so your guess is as good as mine. I don't really know. I'm just spitballing here. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Chase. I'm going to try to not let that influence me too much and just make every video on Chase. I'll keep digging into these other dudes too, see if I can find anything. But for right now, I'm talking about Chase. Sorry. What can I say? When I went to Loretta's in the pro class, that was the same class that Chase was in. So I've been a fan ever since. Let me know what you think. It's probably too early to tell I just couldn't get that thought out of my mind after I saw that interview. So I had to put it out there. Okay. Let me know what you think. And probably see you in a few days. Let's keep making these videos. Bye.